Major League Soccer, also known as the MLS, was first established in 1993. Their first season started in 1996, where it started with 10 teams. It eventually grew to 12, and then contracted back down to 10. They've had two growth phases ever since they've been established. The first growth phase was from 2005 to 2014, where they went from 10 teams to 19 teams, and they're currently in their second growth phase, where they're currently up to 29 teams and they're expected to get up to 30. In this video, we will go over which cities would be good for MLS expansion in the future. First, we will start with a few notes, which should steer the direction of this video and could be useful for discussion down in the comments below. Note number 1. The MLS is currently at 29 teams when St. Louis FC joins the MLS in 2023. In 2019, the league announced it would for sure expand to 30 teams. However, they would be open to expansion further. The first note should be, how big can the MLS be? Or how big are they willing to expand to? Again, the first stair step for the MLS is 30, but could they expand to 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, maybe even further than that? Definitely let us know down in the comments. Note number 2, from a mathematical standpoint, from a divisional standpoint, and how you set up divisions or conferences, obviously it's good to have even numbers. However, in the past, the MLS has played with odd numbers of teams, and obviously they can still do that, as not every single team plays on a given day. So from an expansion standpoint, it would be good to look at it from, hey, we're not going to have just even, but there might be odd as well. Note number 3, the MLS covers both the United States and Canada. In other leagues around the world, it's mainly country specific, but with the MLS, it covers both the United States and Canada. For instance, if the MLS was just one country or the other, you'd probably think Canada would have 8 teams and the US might have 32. So is the perfect number 40? I guess we'll find out. Note 4. The MLS is expanding rapidly due to how big soccer or football is worldwide. They're obviously a tier or a few tiers below the top tiers of Europe, such as Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, etc., but they have the ability to potentially be in the second tier or the first tier as they continue to grow and expand. And note number 5, because soccer or football is so big worldwide, the MLS doesn't really have to worry about dilution of the product. The product in this case, for the most part, would be players. Because there's so many players worldwide, it shouldn't be that big of an issue to get new players as new teams arrive. The main issue with getting new teams would be fan support and financial support. So it'd be how many people are going to attend and what kind of sponsorship opportunities would said city offer. In addition, what type of stadium opportunities would said city or owner also be able to offer said team. The cities will be divided into 2 different groups. The first group will be cities that haven't been mentioned or barely have been mentioned with previous expansion bids or opportunities. And the second group might include current expansion candidates or a combination of failed or stalled expansion efforts, candidates that were involved in those situations. As the first group might not be likely to get teams, we will briefly go over them and not too far in depth compared to the second group of teams. So the first group may include New Orleans, a city in Wisconsin such as Milwaukee, Calgary, and Edmonton, and New Mexico. That would probably be Albuquerque, but could be Santa Fe as well. New Orleans is obviously big enough to host multiple pro teams already, as they have the Pelicans and the Saints, but could easily host a soccer team. They should have enough fan support and corporate support as well. Going out to Wisconsin, it would probably be Milwaukee. Milwaukee is interesting, or Wisconsin as a whole is interesting, as the NFL is located in Green Bay. In basketball, they have the Bucks. Baseball, they have the Brewers. They, for some reason, don't have a hockey team, but they should be able to host a soccer team in Milwaukee with not only the population, again, with the corporate support. With Calgary or Edmonton, you already have 3 teams in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. To add 1 or 2 extra teams, especially in those 2 cities, would be doable. They already host hockey teams in both of those cities. From a professional U.S. standpoint, it works. And going back down to Albuquerque or Santa Fe, also known as New Mexico, There are no pro teams in New Mexico in that metro area. The population is around 1 million, so it would be able to support a team. Because there's no other pro teams, they should have corporate interests. Now, the second group of teams, as mentioned previously, will be looking at cities that currently doesn't have a team but has been interested in the past or is currently interested in bringing an MLS team to their city. The first is Cleveland, Ohio. Between 2004 and 2006, Cleveland was interested in getting an expansion franchise. However, they ran into funding issues and financing issues. About 10 years later, the commissioner stated that there hasn't been any developments regarding Cleveland. The current issue with Cleveland, yes, it's a big enough metro, should have corporate interest and fans. The main issue with Cleveland is Ohio already has 2 teams with Cincinnati and Columbus, so Cleveland getting a team probably wouldn't be likely. Another city is the same reason why Cleveland probably won't get a team as Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is close to Columbus and Cincinnati. If Cleveland's not likely to get a team, neither would Pittsburgh. Obviously, both teams could potentially house MLS teams. With competition nearby and only so many fans in the area, it would be definitely difficult. Next would be Detroit, Michigan. Detroit started to look at an expansion team back in 2016, and they were considered one of the front runners for a 2020 bid, but they didn't appreciate Detroit just wanting to use the Ford Field in Detroit where the Lions play. The MLS specifically wanted a soccer-specific stadium. Obviously, Detroit is a large enough metro, has a lot of corporate interests. The main issue would be getting a stadium specific to soccer, and obviously an ownership group that can make that happen. Next would be Tampa Bay. In December of 2016, Tampa Bay was one of its 10 potential expansion cities. Tampa Bay used to have a team back in the 90s that folded. The city of Tampa Bay had a special election referendum in 2017 that negotiated a 25-year lease for the Tampa Bay Rowdies' current waterfront stadium to increase the capacity to 18,000 pending MLS expansion acceptance. The vote passed in the favor of 87%. So if they were to be accepted, not only would they have a team to potentially be promoted, quote unquote, but also a stadium already in place. Obviously, Tampa Bay already houses many professional teams, and they have a large population that would make MLS good. Next would be Sacramento. Sacramento actually was accepted to join the league in 2022. It was pushed back to 2023 due to delays from COVID. And in 2021, the proposed owner decided not to acquire an expansion team in Sacramento. Currently, that bid is on hiatus. So in reality, they have some kind of ownership group come about it. The MLS is already bought into the idea of Sacramento getting a team. So if an ownership group can come together, they could potentially get a team. Louisville, Kentucky. There aren't any current plans in place for Louisville, Kentucky. There is a USL team that plays in Louisville. They're in the top 4 for league attendance. They have a stadium downtown. MLS has had discussions in the past with the ownership and with the mayor, but there isn't currently any plans for expansion. The issue with Louisville, kind of the same with Cleveland, but a little bit different, is you're close to Cincinnati and Columbus. The pro for Louisville is the fact that there aren't any other pro teams in the area, as in the surrounding Louisville metro area. So you shouldn't have to compete with any other pro teams, obviously, from an attendance standpoint and from a corporate standpoint as well. Another area for expansion would be upstate New York, either Rochester or Buffalo. Rochester, New York has previously been mentioned as an expansion target due to the success of the Rochester Rhinos previously. Rochester isn't currently in contention or in consideration by the MLS because of downturn in attendance and finances by the Rhinos. Buffalo would probably be a better city since they already have pro teams. Again, the issue with pro teams already being there is fan bases might be taken away, corporate sponsorships taken away. Buffalo's close to Toronto, so how does that affect it? Another city would be Ottawa, Canada. Ottawa was a long shot candidate throughout late 2018 and early 2019. But MLS selected Vancouver and Portland instead. Ottawa got a USL team back in 2011 when it was NASL. So the likelihood of them getting a team in the MLS is probably slim or none. Another team would be Indianapolis. Indianapolis launched an official bid in January 2017 to upgrade their NASL franchise to an MLS expansion member, but their bid was not chosen. Again, the same issue for Indianapolis. Same issue for Cleveland. And Louisville is the fact that they're close to, in this case, would be Chicago and Cincinnati and Columbus. So how does that work? They do have a good enough population to support a team. They do have an NFL team there already, an NBA team. MLS plays opposite seasons as of those two teams. So it could work from a fan standpoint and corporate standpoint, but there may be better cities. Next up is Las Vegas. First interest in MLS for Las Vegas was in 2014. There's been ongoing discussion ever since. Vegas is currently the front runner for the 30th team and may be announced soon. Vegas has been ripe for expansion teams in America over the last few years, or relocation teams. The Raiders most recently moved there. The Oakland Athletics may move there. There's talks about an NBA team moving there. The Golden Knights started an expansion team a few years back. So Las Vegas having a team makes sense. Obviously from not only a city standpoint, big enough fan base, big enough corporate sponsorship, but with how many people come in from a tourist standpoint, it would make sense that way. And then having a soccer-specific stadium would be helpful for international matches, World Cups, etc., etc. Next would be Phoenix. In 2017, Phoenix entered the race for an expansion team. In that year, the Phoenix Rising, which is the USL team in Phoenix, signed an agreement with Goldman Sachs to help fund a new 20,000-person stadium. And more recently, Bally Sports Arizona agreed to air most Rising matches in March of 2020, which has been helping Phoenix be drawn closer to becoming an MLS franchise. Phoenix is a good population area and it's only growing further. They're close to Mexico and have a lot of immigrants, so you have a different fan base there, same as with Albuquerque as mentioned previously. And the fact that they don't have a team currently is kind of surprising. So they're definitely on one of the higher ends of these lists. And last but not least would be San Diego. San Diego's kind of in the same boat as Phoenix. You're close to the Mexican border, in this case even closer. So you have a good fan base potentially across the border, as well as not only just in San Diego, but potentially in Mexico as well. They were first mentioned as an expansion candidate in 2014 and again in 2016. The ownership group in this case includes the MLB's owner for the Padres. It's also helpful that the Chargers left San Diego to move to LA, giving them a chance for an MLS expansion team to San Diego higher. If the Padres owner is to be on the ownership group, it helps relieve stress of getting stadium funding from the city, as he's already committed to the city, or he has connections with the city. So if he were to get or need help from the city to get a stadium built, it would be easier than maybe an outside owner. Again, with the Chargers leaving and with the Padres really being the only pro team, you have good corporate sponsors, good fan base. Again, being close to Mexico helps. Definitely a shoe-in. Are any of these cities a surprise to you? Do some of these cities jump out more than others? At the beginning of the video, we mentioned some notes. Do you have any thoughts or comments on those? Again, let us know down in the comment section. Thanks for watching.